so much. So we are going to look at how to achieve depth in interior perspectives. What are the basic principles? Okay. So there are okay. So there are a few principles. First is that whenever we look into interior view, our eyes are designed to see the perspectives. Okay, and whenever we see any object in relationship to the space or to any other object, then we see the diminution happening. So the first principle is diminution. Diminution means reduction. Okay, so for a simple example, that if you consider this as a road, the street lights appear to be diminishing in size when it starts reaching the horizon. Have you seen this concept? Okay, so now if in reality these street lights are actually of the same height, but yet they look diminishing. This is the first thing which happens. With respect to the interiors, you will see if this is the room, these are the two walls of a particular room. The room height, let's consider, is 3 meters. This wall appears bigger than this wall, and then also this wall, but all three are actually 3 meters in height. So this is how the diminution rule or principle happens in the interior perspectives. Even if you look at some window opening and the partitions again will have some diminution happening. So as you go towards the corner wall in 2-point perspective or towards the horizon, you will see that the diminution is happening. When it comes to showing the tiles, there is again diminution happening. Tile as bigger tile, and the same tile of the same size looks smaller and skewed when it is far away. So this is the principle of diminution. Now the reduction is happening in the height lines. The reduction is also happening in the gaps. So now you observe the gap here. The gap of this and this all are different. Okay, so similarly, if I want to divide this, you can consider this also. This gap is bigger than this, and then it starts reducing. So the reduction is happening horizontally, okay, and vertically also. Both ways it is happening. Height reduced and the gaps in between also reduced. This is the first rule. If the object height is considered, let's say if I have a flower vase which I place here, it will appear bigger than the flower vase kept here. So there is a distinct reduction in size of the objects also. So the objects which are closer to you will appear bigger. Okay, and the far they are, they will appear small, even if they are of same size. This is very important. Same size, same intervals, yet it will show some difference. The square in plan will appear slightly rectangular in perspective. Circle in plan will appear elliptical. So this is plan or elevation. Yeah. Okay, now let us go to the next. To achieve depth and higher depth, there is another principle which gets into is overlap. Overlap will create more 3Dness. For example, let us say that there is a combination of few objects. This is a box. There is another box which is behind it, and let's say there is another wooden plank, a thin wooden plank which is kept behind. So now you can see that I have drawn the first object, second object, and the third object in this particular sequence. Why? Because the object will be seen in this similar way to my eyes, and number 1 is overlapping the number 2, number 2 is overlapping the number 3. Okay, so always remember, to achieve more depth in your perspectives, follow the rule of overlap. It may be simply shown in a diagram like this. It's a pillow. Both the rules are getting applied. There is reduction happening, diminution happening in the size. There will be bigger pillows. So this is how we show set of pillows on a bed. There will be headboard also. So this is how the overlap is happening. So while drawing also, even if I end up drawing everything like this, so let's say I draw complete objects. You must draw complete objects first. The inking which I will do it from this sequence. I will start with the objects which I see first, or they are in front. Then I will do this, such that I am not inking these lines. So I will see maximum depth. So inking, drawing, everything needs to be looked in this perspective. The more you overlap, the better the depth. Now let us go to the next principle, which is shade. Okay. So the shading will give you the next depth effect. For example, let us take a simple cuboid, and we will always assume a light source. So the light source will create an impact on the way object will receive light. So if the light is considered from the left above corner, you will see that this will be brightly lit. We will assume that it is brightly lit because the light is coming from the top. This will be slightly dimmer than the brightly lit surface, and this does not receive any direct light, hence will be under more shade. Now over here we have to start applying the tonal value. So the brightly lit surface can be left as paper white. When I say paper white, it is the paper of the color. And when I say this front face can be any of the middle tones, and this also can be one of the middle tones or can be one of the darker tones. So let us implement that. I will consider 3 tonal values over here. So going with the lightest on the brightly lit, slightly darker on the front, and even darker on the third side. So this is how it will actually look. Okay, so you get instant 3D-ness to any particular object. It could be a circle. Now it looks like a circle, but the moment you start shading it and give it a diagonal shade, a gradient, you will see that the whole nature of the shape changes and it takes the form. So it is now a sphere. So this is the impact of depth and shading. So always remember, when you are doing these sketches, you have to start applying these very consciously. The fourth comes is the shadow. I'm going to show the object here, cuboid, and I'm just going to draw the shadow at this moment, and I will protect the border and I will start rendering it with a darker value. Now darker value can be up till black, very dark values also. So this is how it creates. So very simply you will see, without any shading also, the shadow has created 3D. It has added ground, because the shadow will fall on ground or it will fall on the object. So for example, when I say on the object is, let's say there is an object like that, and the object is standing on the base and the light is coming from here, so it actually creates the shadow like that. So the object 1 casts the shadow on object 2 and also will cast. So this is the difference, instant effect of shadow. So you may have sketches which have line drawings and you have only shadows. We can combine all of these two together in the same thing. Let us say I'm also now adding the shadow, shade, and you will see that the 3D-ness increases more. When you add shade to even only one single surface, even then you will see higher depth coming in. If I add it here also, a lighter tonal value, you can see higher depth. So this is now the paper white, not doing anything, and it looks bright. Suppose there is a space out there, so you can always shade it. So the shading will also create it will outstand the foreground. So now it appears much more in 3D. So this is the fourth principle. Then the fifth principle has many other criteria, which is called atmosphere or atmospheric perspective. Okay, now this is very evident in the exterior views. When you see the surroundings, it is very well observed. What does this atmospheric perspective means is that there is always environment or the air particles, molecules which come in our eyes and the object. They come in between and it creates some impact. What is the impact of this atmosphere? Is that the tonal value. Okay, for this example, I will take, we have certain spheres. Okay, they are placed like this. So I have used diminution. I have used some reduction in the distances also. They ideally are of the same size, but they look far. This looks far away than the object which is bigger and closer to you. Now I will also apply shading. Considering that this is the closest object, okay, I'm going to do it in a darker value and I'm going to reduce the tonal value and then the tonal value again, and this is the last. Okay, now you can see clearly that the object, due to the size, is looking far away and there is atmosphere which has come in. Let me just draw the horizon line for you, and we will also do the shadow. So simply shadow, you can do it like that. We will do okay. So you must understand that the 5.1 is the tonal value, which means that the objects that are closer to you will have more contrast. Okay, more contrast. They have darker values. Okay, and they will have clarity. Clarity equal to the sharpness. They'll appear sharper. And the objects which are far away at a distance, they will be hazy and they will appear in bluish tone. Okay, this you can observe in photographs. You can download couple of photographs of landscape, sceneries, and then you can observe this phenomena of tonal value. They will start appearing bluish. The distant trees, the distant mountains, hills, all that will appear bluish. They will lack clarity, they will lack sharpness, they will be blurry. Okay, and the far equal to blur, hazy, correct? Because of the environment. Okay, so that is the tonal value. Now, how is this applicable in interior perspective? Let us look at that. Tonal value difference will be generally playing a role. Let's say this is a room in a 1 point perspective, this is the floor, walls, and the ceiling. Okay, let's consider that this entire area is an opening. So there will be a tonal value gradation. When it is an opening, that means there is going to be light which is coming from there. So when the light comes, it will be brighter here in these portions and darker as you go deeper. So this is how the tonal value will be there as a gradient. Similarly, it will happen in the all the surfaces, because at this moment the entire wall area is considered as the, so you can quickly rotate the paper and make this diagram. Yeah, you can see that impact now. There is a gradation which is happening in this direction on all the surface. So this maturity you can get while you are rendering, while you are shading it. So this appears darker, okay, and this will appear brighter. Similarly, in whichever portion or surface your light source is, opposite to that will be slightly lighter. So you have to study the light impact. Okay. I hope I am audible to you. You can unmute and just say yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I hope so far you are clear. So this is how the tonal value impacts. Tonal value will also happen on the wall surface like this. You can mute yourself now. See, we always have light sources which are on the ceiling. We may have something on walls also. So the ceiling will happen, the impact happens like that. So you will see some, these are known as light arcs. I will talk about it later also. Light arc, I call them. The tonal value, the area which is here, will always appear darker because there is light shadow, I call it as. Similarly, as the light reaches downwards, it becomes dim, dull, and hence the wall will have a tonal value like that, gradation like that, and both the walls will have similar tonal gradation. Remember this because we will be applying all this. If you compare your sketches now and try to analyze it, you will see that all these basics or the fundamentals are missing in those, and that is why they don't have that impact which a 5-minute sketch you can have if you only apply these principles. You can see how the 3Dness or the ambience has been created now. It looks like a space, right? And let's say this is the false ceiling. The false ceiling does appear, ceilings always appear darker because they don't receive direct light. And now you can see the overall ambience of the space. If you show tiles, you will see a higher depth. So this is the impact of tonal value and how do you achieve ambience. We will look into deep when we actually execute the perspectives, but all these principles somewhere we are going to apply. Okay, inside this 5.2 is about line weight, and it is all connected to the idea of tonal value. So the line weight firstly is about thin lines, thick lines, thicker lines, thickest lines. So line weight is about thin and thick lines only. It is not about shade. Line weight equals to thickness. No shade. Because if it was shade, then if I take up only ink medium, or let's say pen has only one single shade. So only by sheer using it once or using it twice, by just overlapping it, I can increase the thickness using pen or any medium. Okay, that's called line weight. So what is the rule behind it? So the objects which are closer to you, let's say there is an object which is closer to me, and there is an object which is far. Simply by giving more thickness to the outline, I can create the depth. Now this definitely looks far than this. It was appearing far, or at least distant from the object 1 by sheer size of the object, because I have reduced the size. I've also created some gap here. So the way I drew it using overlapping method, I could communicate some depth, but the focus has increased and it has come to this particular object because I added a thicker line weight. I can add one more layer of shading. Both the surfaces receive the light. It is coming from here. I have changed immediately. I have changed the tonal value. This appears darker and this is slightly smaller. And I'm gonna show you the shadows. Shadow, I will do it darker here, and shadow here also. So I am showing some gradation in the shadow shade. I am showing some gradation in the shadow which is in front object. Okay. Yes, but most of the times we do not have so much time to see all this. We do not have enough markers or mediums to do that. So it is 99% of times we don't really pay attention to all these details. We quickly take one single shade and then we fill the entire area, which is also fine. To be honest, we don't need to get into so many details, but if applied patiently over a period of time, we can get very, very high realistic sketches.